Hi, I'm Michelle Tennant Nicholson, international publicist, and this is my pet project called How to Be a Precinct Leader.org. And I am the vice chair of East Flat Rock in Henderson County. And I'm learning how to actually lead this county to get out the vote. And so I'm interviewing Princess Ferguson on how to get out the vote. And she is with, she's actually in charge of Get Out the Vote for the Henderson County Democratic Party. Welcome, Princess.
Hey, Michelle, good to see you.
You too.
Thanks so much for setting this up. You've made some great videos. So
thanks. Yeah, it's just something that I wanted to do and figure out for myself. So, and I thought, well, why not put it out on YouTube so that other people can actually benefit from it too. And you had actually presented this at one of the meetings on, what is the Get Out the Vote plan for Henderson County. And so I'd love to be able to share this with other precinct chairs in our county in particular.
Great. When I was asked to do this work, I read some books and I studied, and particularly there's a man named Tom Sullivan who wrote a Get Out the Vote book for Buncombe County. And if it works in Buncombe County, maybe it works in Henderson County as well. And I talked to lots of people, some of them experts, people who had done this work before. So this seemed to me to be the best way to approach organizing a county to get out the vote, because it's a multifaceted process. But the very first thing we had to think about when we were getting out the vote was, I don't have to control the screen.
Okay, it's just saying to, it's saying, waiting for Princess to control your screen. Hold on, everybody. We're trying to figure this out. We've got like a little, yeah, it's just saying that it's waiting for you to, so maybe just look on your buttons and see if there's something there that you can control. There you go. You're controlling it.
Oh, good. All right. Yep. See if I can get this to move down. There we are. Okay.
Maybe just your cursor buttons, like forward, like your right button, or just see if the PowerPoint will actually move.
That's what I was trying, and that is not working. I have thing.
Yeah, let's just see if I can get it to move on my end.
You can do it. That's great. Great. So,
I just clicked it. By the way, I just clicked it and it moved.
All right. I'll try clicking it. Okay, so we had to come up with a way of looking at it as sort of a holistic piece. Okay, so if we're going to do something, how do we go about it? So I just came up with some basic philosophical points, and one of them, the first one, is we're all in this together. Nobody can do this by themselves. If we're going to organize a county and we're going to get out the vote, we absolutely have to do it together. Michelle, I can't.
Oh, okay. It's not, whatever you did is working.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever you're doing is working because I'm not touching it.
Oh, great. Thank you. I'm so sorry whoever's watching this. This is really, really awesome.
Okay, what's happening, everybody, is that I've given Princess control of my screen. So it's like a virtual control type of thing. So she is controlling it and figuring out, well, actually what moves it forward. So I would say that your mouse and your left click on the mouse or on your arrow symbols is what I would say is probably going to move it forward, Princess. And then if it doesn't, then just tell me and I'll actually move it forward for us.
Thank you very much. Okay, so how do we organize ourselves? We have a Get Out the Vote lead team. That's a group of people, about 8 people who work with me, and we meet occasionally and we try to come up with the best strategies with the changing of time. We also in the county have the county board. We have caucuses. We have an African American caucus, an LGBT caucus. We have a Women Dems auxiliary. We have a Senior Dem auxiliary. So there are leaders of all of these areas and precinct officers and their leadership teams are probably the key to actually getting into the precincts. We also have volunteers that aren't active in precincts. Those are the volunteers that we can find or that precincts find. But some people, they don't want to be involved specifically as in a precinct, and so we'll make use of them no matter what. Also, we have a very good relationship in this county with our candidates and their workers. This is a wonderful team that, in fact, I met with them today, and everybody's working, and all of their work is helping each of us. Each vote that they get is probably a vote for the other candidates that are running. So we also have, as I said earlier, experts that have done this work before, and we're making good use of them. All right, come my pretty.
Oh, that's a fancy transition.
Okay, so we also, so board chairs and vice chairs provide leadership in their areas of responsibility, along with me. Precincts are given assistance. What do precincts ask for? They might ask for opportunities for help with phone banking. They need training. There's a lot of things that we can do for precincts to make this hard job just a little bit easier. And we have volunteers that fill all these different positions. There's so many different pieces that make up a successful campaign. Letters to the editor, phone bank captains, postcard writers. We can have postcard writing parties, those kinds of things.
Well, let me also mention that the precincts requested, so if people have questions with creating lists of new Democrats or drop-off Democrats and things of that nature, that's the kind of thing that we would request, right, Princess?
Uh-huh.
Okay, great.
Not everyone has the same skill level, and whatever we can do that will help people to so that everybody has a level playing field, that's what we're looking for. Okay, so we have a logical progression. That's so important because this is not something that happens over the period of a month or 2 months. This is something that happens we started in April of this year, and we will not end until a couple of days after the election in November. And then we'll probably have to start thinking about the next time again, using what we've learned from this process. I just mentioned that I met with contacts with the candidates and their teams today. This is fantastically important because everyone is running their own campaign. And since we have 6 candidates that are running campaigns in Henderson County, it's awfully easy to plan an event that might be in somebody else's time. So you might have 2 events on the same day. We don't want to do that. We want to try to keep as nice a flow as possible and to support the candidates as much as we can.
And I also want to say that I've asked all the candidates that if they wanted to do a short YouTube video where there are, basically like what kind of messaging do you want the precinct leaders to get out for you? I've invited them to do that, and I also have videos of what they've said publicly at different events at howtobeaprecinctleader.org. So that's also something to share with if you're talking to a voter and they've not seen all the candidates, and it would also really be great for the candidates to really be efficient time use. Now, whether the candidates will take me up on that offer or not, I think it depends on really what generation they come from and whether they understand how viable that is to reach young voters to be on YouTube. But I know that, like, for example, Michelle Antelek, who was not voted in the primaries, but her video was actually seen 400 times. 400 times in Henderson County. That's quite a lot.
That's very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great way. There's, as you'll see further in the presentation, all of these pieces are critical. Okay, so one of the ways that we can keep up our energy throughout the year is to have social events. We started out the year with annual precinct meetings. We had a county convention. There was a One Good Apple luncheon where Anita Earls, our Supreme Court Justice candidate, spoke. We had a Get Out the Vote rally, our little potluck outdoor fun thing. That was fun. Our annual picnic is coming up. There's going to be another fundraiser September the 6th. And we're going to top the whole year off with an election night volunteer thank you and watch party on November the 6th on election night.
I just want to also say that I think I've got to check with the fundraising group, but I think that the September 6th event was actually just recently with Josh Stein, because Josh Stein could actually come in the summertime, but not September. So, because I was also working on the special events committee. So that originally was going to be scheduled for somebody like Josh Stein. So that we may do an additional one, or we may have already done both of the fundraisers.
When we're talking about we're all in this together, one of the most important groups is the events team.
Yes.
The events team is a county level team, and they have done a great job of coming up with fundraising events. They're fun events, they're social events, but they're also fundraising events. One of our main fundraising events is coming up soon. It's the Apple Festival. Thousands and thousands of people come to Henderson County and they pass our booth, and we sell all kinds of things to them. We sell t-shirts and we sell bumper stickers and we sell so on, and that's also a fundraiser. I understand there's going to be a sock hop though in September. So.
Oh, great. Oh, good. Okay. I've missed a meeting or two because my business group, that's exciting to hear. That's great. And I just want to acknowledge everybody that's watching the videos, like, I can't see Princess because she's backlit. I know she's backlit. Doesn't matter. You can see her PowerPoint and you can hear her voice. That's sufficient.
It's cool that you can't see me, okay?
Maybe it's intentional by design that you just see the sunlight behind her head. All right. So anyway, keeping up the energy. So I love the fact that that you're getting the ability to really say, and I remember seeing this for the first time before, like this was way back in March, I think you presented this.
I presented this maybe at the April CEC meeting.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. Good deal.
So,
fancy transition.
So we are using traditional methods. What are traditional methods? Voter registration, number one. That's really important. However, it's not the most important thing, because we have a lot of registered Democrats, and there are so many groups that we partner with in terms of voter registration. League of Women Voters does an amazing job with voter registration. There will be some voter registration that will coincide with canvassing in places where we believe that there are a lot of people who aren't registered that we'd like to be. So that is very important for us to keep this not really as something that we absolutely have to do every single day, but using locations and events as opportunities. We register voters when we find people who are not registered. And voter registration, Carl Silverman says, is really a waste of time, because you could just as easily be you could just be registering someone from the other party. So canvassing, that's another traditional method that's really important. Some people have already started. There's one guy who's really amazing. He has canvassed 200 people all by himself. He's amazing. He's an amazing man. I don't think anybody's going to be able to outdo him this year.
I don't know. I've already made 100 phone calls myself.
Well, he's knocked on 200 doors.
I know he's going actually up to their houses. So we'll see. We'll get this healthy competition going now. I don't know that we actually even have. I think it depends on the precinct. Ours is fairly spread out, you know.
Well, he has one of the toughest precincts. He's up in Backgate. Anyway, so precinct canvassing.
I do want to say that for people, if you haven't read his report, because that was sent out by Kathleen recently, and he wrote up his whole thing. And I did invite him to do, I don't think that he really got what I was talking about, because he's a little old school in like the way that I was like, oh, I'll just get on the computer and I'll interview you about what you did. He's like, I'll just see you at the meeting, but I can't make the Saturday afternoon meetings. And so I was like, I'll just talk to you next time. So if you're out there and you're seeing it, our bat guy, I think it's Randy. If you're seeing it, we want to interview you here about this. So just get a computer.
Okay, so precinct canvassing is the most intense kind of canvassing, or the most widespread canvassing. And that generally takes place between mid-August through September, before the early voting season. The intense canvassing from early voting through election day is usually out of headquarters. And those we stay very close to who has already, we need to find out who has already voted and try to encourage the others who haven't voted to vote. So that's the intense canvassing part. Phone banking, again, it's traditional. We need to train people how to phone bank, and that's an ongoing process. We have established a virtual phone bank set up at headquarters for efficient phoning. That just means that we can use the computer-assisted phoning, which makes a big difference instead of just having to punch in all those numbers.
And we're our precinct is actually doing that with you later tonight, and I appreciate that. I just want to do a shout out for those precincts who believe that they might be too scared to make phone calls, because I know with our volunteers, a lot of them actually wanted to canvass over making phone calls. And here's one of the things that you can do is there are scripts that we can give you, and we have given you, and you can get those through Kathleen. But the one thing that I want to just say is, you know, if you just identify yourself as their neighbor, hi neighbor, yeah, I just want to make sure that you get your political voice heard, is just a great way to start, and then just listen to their concern. And by listening to them and just getting related to them, that's just basic human relations. So it doesn't have to be hard, is what I want to say.
Yeah, phone banking is something that you just have to do it a few times. And I have seen people that I would not have thought were great phoners be amazing phone bankers.
Yeah.
So early voting, our earliest voting was to clean up phone numbers and to establish contact with voters and to recruit volunteers. And now the phoning that we're doing is, there's all kinds of phoning going on because candidates are doing phoning. But we're mostly trying to contact those people who are not likely voters, because the more times that we bother them, the more likely they are to, or encourage them instead of bother, the more likely they are to vote. They might hear our message, and the more times we give it to them, they may hear it, and if we give it to them in different ways.
And this is another piece that we've been really discovering with the research, is that, you know, people who are the true blue Dems, you know, I've voted party line since I was 18. I am a waste of time for the Democratic Party to call. So I've been getting those phone calls from the candidates, and I'm like, please look at your list and remove your true blue Democrats that are obviously going to be voting for that candidate. But your time will be better spent on those that are new Democrats, progressive, unaffiliated, or drop-off Dems who don't typically vote in the midterms. I just want to also, that's something that I don't think I would have learned or known about before doing my research about being a precinct leader. And so I just want to make sure that people are focused.
That's right. We have all of our real strong efforts this year are being targeted toward those people who are unlikely to turn out.
I hope so, because I keep getting postcards and phone calls, and I'm just like, oh my God, all this volunteer effort, and I'm on lists. I should never be on those lists because I'm a done deal. You know, I'm just, so something to think about if you're watching this video and you're in charge of those lists.
So personal vote, so when we move into non-traditional methods, I think that we've always had mailings, but we haven't had personal postcarding, okay? That addition of someone actually writing something on a card, I think has a lot more impact. So we've built lists, made lists built from early, you know, for our early phoning of Democrats with bad phone numbers. Now, if they have a bad phone number, obviously they're not going to get a call. So we have to reach them some way. And the more times, again, repeating, the more times we touch them, the more likely they are to vote. So our first postcards have been directed towards Democrats who do not have phone numbers that we can call. This also gets volunteers involved in this process, and the more volunteers that feel like they have that feel empowered, the better that is. And if we make some postcards and we have a good, powerful message, those can be used for all kinds of things. I made some more. We used up the first batch that we had, and we have more now.
Well, and I also, that's something, just targeting your list. So while for getting out the vote, we want to focus on those drop-off new Dems and unaffiliated. On the contrary, for your core team, your leaders in your precinct to help you, the people who are going to canvass and write those postcards and call, those are going to come from your true blue Democrats. That's the list to really pull from. That's what I've learned. I haven't executed it and implemented it yet because I'm brand new, but that's what I've learned, and I'm excited to really see if we can't make an impact in our precinct.
And you can. The more people you have, the more likely you are to.
Right.
So media and mailings. All right, we've talked about postcards, but there's a little bit different. Mailings have to do with maybe letters, or if they could include postcards as well. What we're doing this year is we're using only postcards. We're going to have, I'll talk about it a little bit further down, but so we have a messaging committee, and that messaging committee is working really hard to try to come up with messages that fit what we know about our community. And Michelle was very active in this 2017 focus group, where they came up with some 3 key points: community, security, and education. That people were in our community, in Henderson County, we're interested in that. So as we have created these different instruments, we've always thought about what that means. Like people, when you talk about security, maybe you're talking about Social Security, maybe you're talking about a living wage, maybe you're talking about health security. So there are lots of different ways of looking at each one of these, but all of our material, our messaging material, has tried to focus those areas.
And let me just say one more thing about it, because this was from the branding committee from 2016, and it's important because the Democrats do so much volunteer work here in Henderson County to talk up the community leadership that we have at the nonprofit and charitable organizations that really reflect who we are and our belief systems as Democrats. In the South, in particular in the Bible Belt area that might be more conservative, I think it's surprising to them to find out that, what do Democrats really stand for, and that we walk our talk inside these charities and nonprofits. And finally, with the service-oriented conversation, Prentice has already talked about security, and then I'm talking about the community leadership, but let's really talk about that the fundamental thing that all Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated progressives talked about was feeling safe. And so, and then when we did another type of survey at one of the luncheons where we had about 100 or so people who are really believe in what we stand for, healthcare was the #1 conversation topic. So just that might help you in your conversations with people.
Thank you. So, of course, letters to the editor. They're not as effective maybe as they used to be, because we've moved on from actually print media to some extent. But we're focusing, as we said, on unaffiliated and unlikely Democrats. And we will have a mailing to women that should arrive on September 17th, a mailing to all unlikely Democrats and some unaffiliated on October the 1st. We will be mailing out slate cards to Democrats just before early voting on October 15th. We also have thought about television, which is super expensive, and newspaper ads, and those are also expensive. And it really depends on how much money we actually have to spend after we do the things that we absolutely have to do. Okay, so social media, that's where we can spend just a little bit of money and get a huge return. myhcdp.com, the website, is a tremendous resource for all kinds of things. There are links to all of the candidates' websites on there. You just click and you go to their website. That's
really lovely. Yeah, it's a really great service, and it's the site is smartphone friendly, so you can actually just go right to that. I'm going to pull it up right here. I love the links. They don't look like they're hyperlinked, but they are. So if you just go right on the front page, and it's right there. I don't know if we can see it yet. Yep, there it is. Right there at the home page.
So myHCDP, and it also has events that are coming up and so on. We do have a Twitter presence. Isabel Cutler is operating our Twitter account and Facebook. We need to be also on Instagram because you can put pictures there. But our talent base in that area, our volunteer talent base in that area, they're busy people. And so it's hard to find someone who can devote the time that you really need.
Well, some of us are making our living that way. But if you're a young person or someone who's just really interested in technology and that's something that you're passionate about, maybe you're retired and you have the time for that and you really love doing social media work, please talk to Princess.
Please do. Also, the latest thing, this has been a year in which I have seen at least 5 new things pop up that I didn't know about before. And one of them now is this text banking. Not that I don't text, but text banking. And there's actually something called Hustle, where you create teams of texters and they converse with groups of people. So we're looking at that. It's supported by the North Carolina Democratic Party, and we're looking into that to see if we can make that work here.
Well, let me also share something with you from our current website that I noticed. So when I marched in DC, I've marched in DC several times, but I'm talking about the big march right after Trump was elected, the Women's March. One of the things is that they really use it's called force marketing, push marketing, okay? And I've been connected to all these push marketing campaigns with the national organizations, and it's really, really wonderful. And so when there's an action that's needed, you get a text, you click on it, you can then call your whoever that needs to be called for that particular action. And the same thing could be done for candidates and different types of actions locally. And so I was really surprised to see that on our website with the person who actually created that, and I bet this is Kat was probably behind this, but if you go to SMS and you're going to say it says HCDP events, all alerts, federal, state, and local, and advocacy. And so I was like, yay, someone's finally, I'm not sure who's done that. We could probably ask Kat. She could tell us who's responsible for that particular element. But that is really something that is going to be wonderful for us and something that's really, really great. What happens is then what comes up is then you can put your phone number in there, and that's going to some database, right? And so soon we'll be integrating that. And I'm very excited about that.
We have we did have signups on the top of our old website, but people didn't use it. But I think this new website is probably showing it a bit differently and that it's working better.
Oh, okay. I see. So it's part of what was in the old design. Yeah, I never saw it in the old design, and I asked about it when I became when I first got involved in 2000. So I first got involved in January 2017, and everybody was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So we come a long way, baby.
So our marketing was crap. Okay. So.
But you can tell that, like, with a cohesive plan like the one you've got right here, things are looking up for our. This is awesome. I'm very excited about it.
Okay, so another traditional method is signs. So do signs work? There's a lot of talk about whether signs work or not. Actually, name recognition is important, but that doesn't get people to vote. The other things like canvassing and calling and contacting in some way, whether it's texting or a postcard, that's what get people to vote. But signs are important for name recognition. So we get signs from the campaigns. People can put them out in their yards. Right now, you can't put them along the roads. And when we have precinct voting on election day, then sign packets go out to every precinct so that there's signs at every polling place. So what happens on election day? We have poll workers that work outside. We have rides to the polls. We have people who provide food. We have people who can set up some precincts have really cool setups so that people will notice them and come and get information if they don't already have it. We encourage signing up as election officials and poll watchers. That's because we want to have people who are doing that work inside who actually know what's going on with the voting process. It's really important for us to have that feedback. But you can't be a party official or a precinct officer if you do that. So that's unfortunately, we can't do it, but we can be outside. Okay, so what's our goal? We hope to achieve presidential election year results. Now we have 5 of our really good performing precincts. They're on the left. You see Laurel Park, Clear Creek, Hendersonville 3, Southeast, Armory, and Fletcher. You notice those numbers. In 2002, they got those are the numbers. Take Laurel Park, for example. They had 73%. They got 73% of Democrats to vote. In 2016, 85% of their Democrats came out. Do you realize how few that is that didn't vote? That's really a terrific turnout. It's not a huge precinct. They only have 421 people, but that's a lot of people. And they raised the number who voted, and that was canvassing that did that. Raised the number who voted 12%. Our biggest precinct is Fletcher, and 2012 we had 78%. 2016 77%, and that's 77% of 1,114 people, voters. So what we want to do is we want to have these presidential election year results. Why do we want to do that? It's in non-election years, the voting really goes down. You'll see on this next slide. If you look at 2014, for example, look at how much lower that is. Instead of 73%, it's 62%. Instead of 57%, it's 38%. Instead of 70% in Fletcher, it's 50%. So people don't come out in midterm election years. And if we really want this blue wave, they have to come out. So if we could take those, even if we could just get the percentages up to in the same relationship, you see that third column. See, the 73 to 85 is plus 12%. If we could just get it up the same percentages that we do in an election year, in a presidential election year, that would make a huge difference. If we had 64% or if we had 57%, but we're looking at trying to get those numbers much higher. But if we could just do that, that would really make a lot of difference in a non-election year, in a non-presidential year. You see that that same trend for not turning out is also on the with unaffiliated and Republicans. So all 3 of the voting groups are down during a midterm election. So we have all of these different pieces. And the most important thing that we have to do when we're doing all this work is to have some fun. And it can be very fun to canvas or to phone bank or to write postcards or to do any of that kind of stuff. And I think that as the time passes and it gets more stressful, it's even harder to be at our best. And so I encourage everyone to just really support each other in a positive way.
Yeah, and I want to give some perspective to that quickly. When you actually connect with voters, they actually, especially those that are very grateful to hear from you, they sometimes feel alone. And us really reaching out to them and letting them know that we can listen to them, that their political voice is heard, especially in a very tumultuous society that we have, especially with the news cycles being so tumultuous. I think that it's important to reach out to our neighbors and listen to them. And I was really surprised by some of the conversations that I had with people. I thought that they would be a little more edgy with me, but they weren't. They were really lovely and said, God, I'm married to a Republican. I don't speak to anybody about this. Thank you so much for calling. It never even occurred to me that would happen.
Well, it's always calling, and is if you get somebody, if somebody actually does answer their phone, it's a great feeling when you get to tell somebody that we have 6 fantastic candidates. We have 4 superb judges who they can vote for, and we can give them some guidance on just voting. And this year, one of the most important things that we're saying to people is vote by mail. What is voting by mail? It's simply calling the Henderson County Board of Elections and asking for an application for an absentee ballot. Very simple application to fill out. You don't have to say why you want one. You just fill it out, send it back to them, and they'll send you a ballot. This can be done up to the Tuesday before Election Day. So we're encouraging people to do that because there will only be one early voting site, and that's in Hendersonville. So for many of us, going to Hendersonville and finding the Board of Elections it's not an easy, it's a time-consuming process. So we're urging people to save time and vote by mail.
Okay, that's what you meant by vote. Okay, vote by mail. Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like for final words for us as precinct officers?
I have been a precinct officer for, I don't know, a number of years. Let's just put it that way. I've been a precinct chair. Right now I'm vice chair. I was a vice chair before. Anyway, I know what it means to be a precinct officer. Being a precinct officer is a big, big job. It feels like a huge responsibility. And the more that we in the county party can support our precinct officers, the happier I am. So anytime that you need assistance, ask for it. Ask Kathleen. She's a precinct. She's a person who works directly with precincts. Or ask me, or ask Laura if there's some way that she could help you. Ask Mark. If nobody is giving you any help, ask the county chair, because we are in this together. We totally are. It's up to us to get those voters to the polls and to elect people that are going to be better for us than the people who are in office now. We want people who care about us, who will fight for us. So we're saying, remember in December, vote.
Thank you so much, Princess, for going through this with me online so that we could make this available to people who haven't seen it, or for those who ask always questions like, where's the plan? Where's the plan? Well, here's the plan, everybody. So if you have any questions, of course, you know how to reach Princess. You also know how to reach me, and get out the vote.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
See you later.